So I don't want to scare you guys with today's story, but I will say viewer discretion advised. Today I'm going to tell you about how my bags ended up in storage and why. Most importantly, the takeaway is to have your own. And I would say the second most important takeaway and a regret in mind that we'll talk about in a future video: trust your gut, trust your instincts, trust yourself, leave sooner. We always wait, not until it's too late, but we always wait. Don't wait. Leave sooner. Leave when you think you should leave. And so in order to do that, we have to get into today's topic, which is to have your own. Because believe it or not, it's going to take some coins to make this happen. You're going to need the money. All right, so let's get into it. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Kenysha. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back, my loves. Welcome back. Typically, I like talking about luxury, lifestyle, and mindset. And if you're into that, then stick around, stay tuned, subscribe, etc. So let's get into the story. So if you are a returning viewer, then first let me start by saying welcome and thank you to my returning viewers. So today I am giving away these two lip samples from Louis Vuitton's new beauty line. So the one is called Dune Explorer. It's a lipstick. The other is called Rose Essential. It's a lip balm. And the winner is I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, KBotLV 8129. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of my last video on Louis Vuitton Beauty. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you'll have to go back and watch the beauty video, the beauty unboxing, in order to understand how people are getting the giveaways, as well as the Louis Vuitton Murakami stickers that I've been giving away as well. Okay, so behind me getting into today's story is my one corner. Oh God, don't get distracted, Ken. Don't get distracted. A corner of disorganization that gives me ajna, gives me hives. I hate clutter. I really do. And so this has been my way of organizing the clutter and the chaos of my bags, which have been in storage for a while. The girl's been going through it for a while. So the backstory being, I recently went through divorce. There was DV involved. I don't know how deep I want to get into that, but there probably will be some lessons learned that I can share with you guys along the way. But for today, let's talk a little bit about answering a question from one of you, my viewers, who was going through a similar situation and was curious about how my bag survived in storage. So we'll probably do a follow-up video on the actual bags and how they survived, because as you can see, that's going to be a process. It's going to be a journey, and I've still got things to open that were in storage. We'll get into it, but today's video is about having your own, okay? First things first, I think there's 5 components to that. First part is, what kind of storage do you need? Okay, you can have outdoor storage, you can have indoor storage, you can also have something called climate control storage. Personally, what I went with was climate controlled storage, which is an indoor type facility that also provides you security and a code, as well as a lock on your own storage unit, where you can feel like your things are being safe and protected. I wanted my things to be protected from the elements, protected from insects, protected from growing mold as a result of being in the elements, or just being overall destroyed. Ultimately, what I'm finding is that things did make it through unscathed. Some of my clothes, I'm finding, like the wool items, I've seen a little bit of holes where I think they were eaten by moths. But I also tried to put mothballs into some of the wardrobe boxes that I had, so that would be minimized. So as for my clothes, I did find some impact to my clothes. As for my bags, I'm still going through things, so we'll have to see what damage results. I have found 1 or 2 items, 2 bags, that one was questionable, but one definitely has taken a hit. I can't say whether or not it was due to storage or not, but it was definitely not in rotation. Going back to the types of facilities that you're going to want, overall, you want a climate controlled facility. Now, the next thing that goes along, I would say part 2, that goes along with the kind of facility that you're going to want to look into is price. So outdoor facilities are going to be a little bit less expensive. And let me just back up and say, I feel like they are all expensive. I feel like storage is all expensive. Going back to an outdoor facility, it's going to cost, an outdoor facility is going to be less expensive than an indoor facility. And an indoor facility is going to be less expensive than an indoor facility that is climate controlled, okay? So those are the tiers. I personally looked into an outdoor facility thinking that maybe I would be able to keep my bags inside with the location where I was going to move to, but ultimately felt like I had too much stuff and a lot of it was wardrobe related, furniture related. So outside was just not going to be the right solution for me. So then I turned to looking at the indoor facilities and looking at climate controlled. And ultimately, I went with climate controlled. I actually walked around all these kinds of facilities and I went with a climate controlled facility because it was regulated by the weather. So if it was hot outside, the indoor facility was cool. It was kept cool, cooled off, air conditioned, a nice, steady, even temperature. If it was cold outside, like it is starting to get here in wintertime in Pennsylvania, then the inside was not cold. It was not warm. It was still kept at the same consistent cool temperature that didn't allow for mold, mildew to accumulate, but also your belongings were protected from rain, snow, sleet, etc., which is where I am. And then inside of the facility, which requires a code to first even get onto the premises, which I like, and then a code to get into the building, which I like, and then inside of the building, you have your own storage unit, which requires you to have your own lock. So all of those elements combined made me feel really happy about an indoor climate controlled facility and happy with the price that I paid, which they start you off on discount. You know, at the beginning, they give you a little discount deal and then they start to step it up, all right? They start stepping up the prices on you. So you really got to keep your eyes on it, because what you can do if you don't have a lot of stuff or if you plan it right is you can move in, take advantage of the discount, and then move your belongings out to the destination that you went to at that same monthly rate that you pay. So I think I was paying $150 a month. And then girl, when I tell you, I saw a bill for $187 and then I started to see bills for $227 and I was like, I gotta get out of this storage unit. I was like, I gotta get out of this. Keep your eyes on it because those discount rates definitely only last so long. The way that they get you is they make you sign up with automatic payments. I mean, I can't say make you, but it's easier to just sign up with the automatic payments and then it's automatically coming out of your account, which just is less of a headache for me. So when I was seeing those numbers coming out every month, I was just like, okay, we need a plan to get us out of this situation. Another variable that weighs in to the cost factor is the size of your unit. I think I had a 10 by 20 foot unit, 10 feet by 20 feet, I think was the size of my unit, which for me, primarily it held furniture. And I'm talking about like a good amount of furniture, bedroom set furniture, some living room furniture, bedside tables, filing cabinet, as well as tons and tons and tons of boxes, wardrobe, knickknacks, shoes. The size of your unit, the bigger the unit, the more money it's going to cost. And then the indoor climate controlled being another variable, the more it's going to cost. So you can definitely see yourself getting up there into the hundreds of dollars a month, beyond even what I was paying, if you're not careful, if you have a lot of stuff, which is probably another reason why you always hear me preaching about decluttering and making sure that my space stays organized, because I just don't feel good when my stuff is disorganized. So right now, you guys might be saying to yourself, girl, you got all your stuff in bags, actually in a spot. You're talking about being disorganized. I need to go through it. I need to sort through it. I need to unbox things. Like, that's crazy. So yeah, there's another level of organization we can get to. We will get to. Okay. So number 3, why did I have to get storage? This is where it comes into another part of why you need to have your own. If you got to pay for storage, you're going to have some money. And we just talked about costs, but we haven't talked yet about the necessity of needing storage. I was forced out of my home. I should say I left my home, my marital residence, because my ex-husband, I didn't feel safe there. At first, when I left and went to my parents, it was a temporary situation, meaning I went for like a couple days. I was planning on going back, so I didn't take anything. In my home, another reason why I left, there were hidden cameras. This is not a laughing matter. I didn't find it amusing. It was a complete invasion of my privacy because I was not informed. Along the course of this journey, just know that the authorities have been involved. So at some point, my ex-husband tried to take my bags. I had bags in 2 locations at my marital residence, some in my bedroom, some in my she shed, my work area. I started to collect my bags when I realized, as well as my clothes, I started to collect some of my belongings when I realized my marriage was not going to work. When I realized that some of my rights as a human being were being taken from me. When I realized I needed to fight back and start looking into these options that we're talking about, is the reason why you need to have your own. Because you can't do anything if you have no money. It is that simple. And it's a really serious topic that young women need to get. The older I've gotten, the more I realize that this is the same story throughout time. This is the same story. Whether you're young or old, no matter your race, if you're dealing with a spouse who is controlling in some way, shape, or form, and intends on using money to control you, or the things that you have to control you, or your children, anything, they will, you're going to have to start to figure out a way out of that situation. And my way was because I have really good family, really good resources, having worked all my life, and the Lord in heaven on my side. So that is why I had to move into storage, is because I ended up having to leave a home that no longer felt safe to me. And I wasn't about to leave my hard-earned anything behind. Okay, now let's move on to, how do you actually do this? How do people do this? Now, you may have heard people talk about how, girl, I had to just leave. There was no plan. I feel like that's the worst option, because when you work so hard for what you have and you have to start over, and to a certain extent, I have had to start over. I had to find new residence, right? New place to stay, to live, take care of my kids. When you have to start over, it's really depressing. It's a really depressing thing to do. But it helps when you have the right resources and support around you. And it helps even more when you have a plan. My plan involved a lot of patience. It involved a lot of waiting. It involved having some type of foresight, because at some point I knew I had to take what I cared about out of that house, into my car, keep it at my parents', whatever. Before I even lined up storage, I knew I had to do some things, and I did. I started moving things out when my ex-husband was at work. That accelerated him wanting to try to steal some of my purses from me, so I had to make sure I accelerated getting the rest of my belongings. It led to him trying to change the locks on my she shed, where again I had stored some of my belongings. So I had to get locksmiths out in order to get into my own property. Same thing on my house, okay? So again, this is what facilitates the reason why you have to remove yourself from the situation and your belongings if that's what you want to do, because the other person will be doing things that require that sort of facilitation. How did I actually move all of my belongings? Because the timing of some of this was where I was with my parents temporarily and then trying to work on my marriage. So I was going back into the household and trying to work on my marriage. This requires patience. This requires time. But it wasn't working. There was still a lot happening. Removal of cameras, they were just relocated around the house. Me finding them later. I knew I had to leave. I knew this wasn't going to change. I knew this wasn't the situation I wanted for myself or my kids. I ultimately left, went to my parents, had some of my belongings with me, and then when he had an upcoming vacation with friends is when I planned for the move to storage. That is timing. You got to figure out the right time to do these things. You need to be ready. You need to know what steps you need to take when that time happens. So moving on to the fifth part, which is executing the plan. That means now you've lined up the timing. You know where you're going to go. For me, it was my parents, right? You've got the money lined up. However you got the money, you got it. And you know you had to get the movers. So I didn't have a lot of time in order to get the movers. So you really can't be working with no riffraff. You got to get some real good local movers who know what they're doing, or some really good professional movers who know what they're doing. Okay. Call, schedule the move, make sure that your spouse is gone, and then you go over there and you get your stuff. Because he had cameras in the house, he was trying to intimidate the movers. How could this happen? Being all the way wherever he was on vacation. Those cameras you could talk through. You could see what was happening remotely, and you could also talk through. So what happened? He tried to call the police on me. What happened? Nothing. It is my marital residence and I am getting my belongings. Okay. What happened? He was away on vacation, and when he got home, my belongings was gone. All right. That's what you got to do. Now, I want to come back to that part in the beginning when I said, number one important thing about this is having your own, and number two that I wish I had done, like so many women, was leave sooner. Okay. We will have to talk about timing and trusting your instinct and trusting your gut later. But so many women do not have the resources. So many women do not have a plan. And so many women do not look ahead. Do not think this could be serious. Do not take what is happening to them seriously. And I'm here to tell you, life is too short for that. Life is way too short for that. So I have moved on. As you can see, we are moving on. But I wanted to come back and answer this question about what kind of storage do you need if you're in a situation like I was in? And how the heck do you get yourself out safely of a situation like I was in? And then you can always focus on, after that, these items that are the materialistic items that are the cherry on top in life. Now we can focus on playing and having a little bit of fun. Now I can get back into that part of my life. But before, it was chaos. Coming out of the chaos and back into my realm of peace, I can focus on this experience again. We can focus on building community again. So that is the story for how I ended up in storage. And if you want to continue the story, then I encourage you to like and subscribe. Tune in for more. I hope you're following me on Instagram and TikTok. I will be going through my bags so that I can figure out exactly how they are and what I have and what I'm keeping or not keeping. But there's so much more to come. It is going to be a journey, and I hope you guys are here for the ride. So thanks so much for tuning in. And until the next video, smooches, deuces, peace.